Okay, guys, welcome to Knows Work Ask Me Anything. No matter how far I turn my camera this way, Natalie's still at the edge of it. That is the theme of the show. How's everybody doing? Oh, we haven't posted this anywhere, so nobody can see this. Let me share the link with you.
No matter how long we would have talked.
Oh, the whole
Someone would
show.
have found it.
No, yeah, people will find it because there's an announcement on YouTube or whatever. Okay, there we go. Let's see. We already got a thumbs up. Yay. No viewers, but a thumbs up somehow.
That's impressive.
How does that work? Oh, it's Judy. Welcome, Judy. Hello. How are you? We're just getting the stream all set up and connected to our Facebook. So we'll get started in just a moment. Let us know that you can see and hear us and all of that good jazz. We've got a few questions. So I think ended up getting a bunch from our Facebook posts. But if you have more questions, feel free to let us know. In the chat on YouTube is the way to contact us now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's up now.
So I expect people will be filtering in soon. Did you use the everyone tag?
No. Let me see if I can fix it.
You can. You can just add it as a comment. Thank you for letting us know you can see and hear us. We got 4 people now. Are you doing the everyone or should I?
I know I'm doing it.
Our March is almost done. I just finished my April schedules. I think Natalie's got a few more tweaks she's got to do to hers.
It'll be out.
Yeah. So if you're a premium member, expect April's schedule to come soon. Welcome, Lori. And for the public, a few days after that.
Yeah, probably not sooner than the end of the week.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we got 6 people in. We're going to let a few more people get in before I officially start. Get everything I need all in one place. Welcome, everybody. I see we got 8 people now. Say hello in the YouTube chat if you can, if you haven't already.
Okay,
we got 9 people now. 4 likes. Awesome. We haven't even said anything, and people like it. Get ready to be disappointed. Hi, Gwyneth. Okay, we all good?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, let's start with news.
Okay.
First news is that we've updated our website a little bit for people. People have been asking us a lot about workshops and things like that. I'm going to share my screen, actually. Yep, that's the right screen to share. Okay, so if you go to our website and go to the workshops, which I'm going to change this to say events, just so you guys know, it won't say workshop for too much longer, but you click on workshops, you scroll down, a list of places we're going.
So far, just
and who to contact sometimes, not always, who to contact and when we're going to be there, so that if you're interested in privates or interested in workshops, you can find it there.
Yeah, sometimes we can hook things on to other events we're doing.
Yes. Okay. Stop
I don't have any of my stuff up there yet.
Yes, we're still waiting for Natalie to upload her stuff. By I mean me.
I mean, I might be waiting for myself too.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure you are. So that's a great resource for you guys, and that'll also let you know, if you want to book something, you have an idea of what's already booked and what might be available. So I know that we've got some people looking at 2027 already for us, and the year is going hard and fast, just like charging towards the end. It's kind of crazy.
We're already in spring. Happy spring.
Yeah. So just to give you a recap, even though I put it on the screen, I'm going to be in Pennsylvania, then Virginia, West Virginia, then Idaho.
All of the 3 of those are in April.
Yeah. And then in May, I'm going to be in Boston. Hopefully I need to contact the host and double check everything's working. Then on the July 11th, we are having a local game day here.
Yeah, it's not. It's listed as Troy, Missouri, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not going to be Troy, Missouri exactly. But we'll update. Natalie will update that as soon as we know more details.
We do know it's going to be in St. Peter's.
Great. Then you could update it right now if you wanted. And we're going to be doing some newer games. A game that I've only played twice at workshops with people as guinea pigs. So if you want to play new games, have new challenges, that'll be a fun event for you. Ghost is very interested.
The oldest lady is coming to say hi.
I decided to leave her out of her crate. So yeah, great opportunity for game day. If you've never done a game day with us, this won't be a workshop. This will be a game day. It'll be an opportunity for you to compete. There will be, like a debrief like you would have at a normal trial, but it won't be a workshop with like lecture portions and lots of observation. So just that's worth mentioning. Then I'll be in New Mexico and then Maryland. And then more Maryland. Why do I have Maryland twice here? That must be wrong. Anyways.
Well, you're going to two different people in that
in the same area. Yeah, maybe you're right.
Isn't that where it's Lisa and something that starts with an A? Anka?
Yeah, that's in Pennsylvania and West Virginia. And then I'm going to Pittsburgh. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be out in that area. And then back in Pennsylvania again. So it's all over the place. So yeah, keep an eye on that, and we'll keep it updated as best we can. Trish just got her first NW3 title.
Yes, she was a good girl.
Was that yesterday? 2 days ago?
What's today? 2 days ago was Saturday.
2 days ago? Okay, very congratulations.
Thank you.
A lot of our students were at workshops. I mean, trials, maybe workshops too, but a lot of our students were at trials, and I've heard back from a lot of them that they're very pleased with how they did. Congratulations to all of our students. If you want to brag, feel free to put it in the chat. What other news do we have? I already talked about April schedules. What else?
Yeah. I'm going to be in California. Leaving on Wednesday. I'll be there through the 1st of April. I might have a little availability for private lessons, especially the second half of that. Probably most of you know that already because I posted about it.
I've been training a corgi named Keebler from scratch. He's not my dog. He's a dog being loaned to me from someone else. He's a very cool dog. I've documented all of his, the majority of his training, and I'm posting it in a course on our website. So you can find that there. How to train a corgi for nose work. And he went on Odor a few days ago, and he's been doing his odor imprinting and stickiness work. So we're doing all that right now.
Lots of field trips.
Yeah, he just got introduced to boxes, and he's got an ORT in like 3 weeks. Goodness gracious, that's very quick.
That's when we usually put them on.
That is when we usually put them on Odor. Yeah, it's let's see, when is his ORT? Let me look. Not that it matters for you guys, but 1, 2, 3 weeks, just about 3 weeks. So you're going to see that whole process. You're going to see the ORT, whether I pass or fail. I'll film it and post it. I'll talk about what I did wrong or what I did right and things like that. So you'll get all that information. If you're interested, you can buy that on our website now.
So you're sort of like live updating it as you go?
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. Let's see. Am I forgetting anything else?
I don't know. I think that's probably enough news for now.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see then. Going right back to my list here. Let's jump into the questions, shall we?
Yep. What exercises would you suggest for an environmentally sensitive dog to warm up? Very motivated and happy at home, but slow and cautious in class after 2 years. Working in new locations?
Yeah, this was a question that came up in my new intro class, which is just week 1 just happened. So if you still want to audit, you can. There's room. Definitely message me. And since it's only week 1, and I think I have actually 1 spot still open. So if you want a working spot, you've only missed 1 week.
Yeah,
just letting you know. I should probably message all the auditors and check if anybody wants to take that working spot too. But anyways, that's there. And this question came up during the class because I talked about warming dogs up. So what would you say?
I would say, well, I would be trying to figure out what is making them different in class, and especially if they've changed. So is something in the environmental class bothering them? Is it the other dogs that are on location that's bothering them? Do they feel pressure? Does the handler feel pressure? And the dog's picking up on that. And then try to figure out, what's different, what I can do differently, talking to my instructor about it. Are there some visual incentivization exercises we can do, like tin toss game or pretending to set hides? And I would go to new locations and see if this is just class location. Is it anywhere new? See if I can find any trends, but similar exercise thoughts that I would have in other new locations.
Yeah, it's true that after 2 years in a class, it's surprising that the dog's still slow and cautious, but also not. Like Maggie, our dog, I take her right out to our barn, right outside the house for my class. And if there's new people there or it's arranged slightly differently, she'll be a little spooky at first. That's just her temperament. That's just who she is. That's not going to ever change. What will change is how quickly she recovers.
And she does recover more quickly than she used to.
And what she's willing to do even while she's nervous. That will change also. And that's another thing everything you said is basically what I said in the class, that I highly recommend tin or treat toss as a warm-up exercise to get the dog comfortable and happy, get them playing. It's more about getting them playful. Mm-hmm. And so if you can do a little bit of play with them before, that usually gets them in a better frame of mind. They're going to be more successful with whatever exercise you do later. And I do have students come to class and I tell them, before you come in or get there early or whatever it is, come get a tin from me or keep a tin with you and go out to the field and do a little tin toss before you come in the room for class. That can make a huge difference for a dog.
Yeah, but you'd really need to pass that by your instructor.
Yeah, it's only you don't do this secretly. Ask the instructor about this and see if they're willing to do it
and where you should do
it. But even if you're training on your own, I recommend doing some tin toss before doing a training session.
And looking for your trends. Are things getting better or are they getting worse?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good with that one?
Cool.
All right. I feel like we answered this other one.
Yeah, I didn't do anything. I didn't add any new questions. So.
Okay, then we'll go to the Facebook group.
Cool.
All righty. So I had a bunch of questions. I think the first one was, any tips for training distractors with containers? I usually start with every box loaded with a distractor or odor, and then gradually fading to distractor empty odor. Looking for other training methods, especially for the distractor savvy dog. And so I asked what she meant by distractor savvy, and she said a dog who already knows and understands that distractor learning is not desirable, but needs practice to get even better with that skill.
So if the dog understands that distractor learning is not desirable, what more I want to push that further. Why do they need more practice? What is there something going wrong? Because if there's not something going wrong, then I'd probably say don't keep practicing it. It's not that important. And there's other things that may be more important. I think people tend to over drill containers and even containers with distractions. I'm going to give you a few other things that I like to do. The main thing there's a couple things. One is distractors outside of containers. So putting distractors in all of your search areas, vehicles, interiors, exteriors.
That's a great way to make sure the dog is working through them regularly without putting weird pressure on containers.
Exactly. The second is to put distractors in containers, but it's not a container search. So there might be 3 or 4 containers with distractors out in your exterior or interior search, and the dog can notice them and move on and ignore them. That's good. And anything that brings less attention to containers is better in my book, which leads me to the next one, which is loose distractors. So I love putting food in a bowl off to the side, using a leash. They're not allowed to go to that food. Make sure the wind is blowing the food into the search area, and expect the dog to search while ignoring the bowl of food with loose food. Even a piece of food just on the ground. I've even been doing this with Keebler, who just went on odor. I've started dropping a piece of food on the ground. He has to stay with the odor. That to me is how I start food distractors. It's in my hand. It's on the floor. And when that's good, then I put it in boxes. That's kind of the last step.
Yeah, and of course you have to be careful about how you're managing the search area, the food, the dog, to build the skill that you want and not go the other direction instead.
Yeah. And I would say the putting food in all of the containers, that's a great, flooding really works well in this situation. And then what makes it more outstanding is when the distractor is all by itself and it's surprising in some way. It's surprising maybe because it's something the dog didn't expect. Like you'd be amazed how many dogs false alert on like a banana or a pine cone or a scented candle, things like that. That
Or
aren't
bread.
necessarily appetizing. Yeah, but my dog loves eating bread, so that's different. I love eating bread too. So it's the unexpected really that catches the dog off guard more than it is the food.
And it's also the slobber.
Yes, and the slobber, which that needs to be trained in its own right. But I was going somewhere with that.
Sorry. Unexpected. Surprise.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know what it was. So yeah, I think those are all some staple examples. Flooding. Oh yeah, putting the distractor container in a disadvantageous position. So, for example, a corner box where the dog is more likely to linger there. You're already likely to have false alerts on corner boxes, and then you put a food distraction there, a toy distraction there, or any kind of distractor there. That's going to increase it.
It's the same.
Or putting the distractor box just like off to the side by itself, where
Mhm.
people will direct the dog to that box. That can make it harder.
Which
only works blind.
I do that a lot in AKC trials because you can do the food distraction in the containers or out of the containers, and so I'll have like a completely different kind of like a enclosed cup sort of thing with the food distraction in it, and people will still walk their dog away from the path of the containers to go and check that because they feel like every object needs to be checked. Then the dog's like, why'd you just put me on this cheese? And often that just becomes miscommunication, not that the dog actually would have falsed on the food. But yeah, the same with the first box or the last box, anything that's somewhere that gets extra emphasis anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like, finding ways to up the ante so that food just sitting in a box is like the easiest version of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like we do exercises where we're like tapping on the box with the food and really trying to sell the dog on it. But of course, the dog gets paid for making the right decision of going to Odor instead. And trying to make it fun and interesting and not just like, yes, no on this box, yes, no on that box.
For sure.
Anything else about that?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay.
If there are any follow-up questions, feel free to ask them. But I think that's my way of doing it. You should switch it to all comments instead of most relevant.
Okay. Then we have.
If you start from the top, it'll give you the oldest ones.
That
first.
is not. The question is nested and it's brand new.
Okay, fair enough.
So a handling question, and you may want to pull up this video.
Okay. I thought we might save this one for later because I do have to open it up, but that's okay. I can open it up now. Do we want to look at the walkthrough or the debrief?
Let's look at the walkthrough first.
Okay.
So the question is, how would you handle this search? We were given 2.5 minutes, unknown number. Even with a fairly fast dog, we ran out of time. Would love handling strategies for these Elite S searches with complex space and short time frame. I feel like we can get that from the walkthrough.
I don't even need the walkthrough. Call finish before your time runs out. Then you don't run out of time.
She didn't say that she timed out. She said she couldn't cover her search area.
Yeah, well, sometimes you're not always going to be able to. And yes. I think that's the game occasionally. Yes.
And then she followed up with additional question. Is there any way to help my dog figure out how to solve problems like the elevated hides faster? It took him nearly 30 to 40 seconds to nail down the hide on the bar, even though he's pretty well versed with elevated problems. But that left very little time to cover the rest of the space and solve a 3-hide triangle with 2 elevated hides.
Okay.
There's some complexity.
I'm going to listen to the. Well, I didn't. Yeah, I missed what you were saying. Sorry. Because I was trying to figure out what these yellow cones are. Is that a segmented search?
I don't know, but she'll say in the briefing. Are they going to get this audio too?
I don't know.
Okay.
If you hear the audio from the videos, let me know, okay?
Otherwise, we'll tell you what she said. That'll be a start. Ignore the dots.
Well, we don't know if they can hear you.
Well, no one's told us whether or not they can hear.
Remember to communicate with us. You got to comment on YouTube. Hmm.
So it's basically everything you could see there.
Okay, so
They said they cannot hear.
They cannot.
No.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the yellow dots mean nothing. It's the whole room, including the bar. She said to ignore the yellow dots. Okay, so let's.
Why don't we go ahead and watch the debrief too?
Yeah, we can. No, I want to talk about the space before I know where the hides are.
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again just so we can talk about it while it's on. What am I doing? No, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to share my screen. Oh, there. I didn't check that box. Okay. So the first thing I would say, it is a big space for 2.5 minutes. What would your strategy be not knowing where the hides are? I know you know a little bit because you read this shit, but
well, that didn't tell me that much.
You know there's an elevated high at the bar.
It sounds like there are at least 2 elevated hides, but that's not
no, okay. So just looking at the space, not knowing where the hides are, what would your strategy?
I would probably try to do a quick, broad perimeter search.
Just lingering anywhere your dog showed interest.
Yeah. And other than that, not over detailing, but trying to balance what that dog needs in terms of how fast they can go through without missing things. Cut once, maybe through the middle.
I think you're probably missing one of the biggest questions people have, which is whether or not you're going to run on or off leash.
Well, that really depends on the dog's brain. With Icy, I would be running on leash. Unless it was the second half of a 2-day trial.
I hate running on leash. But I think I would run off leash with Minnow. She also responds really well to my voice. I would probably run this off leash. And like she said, I would go around the perimeter. And if the dog has a particular desire to go one way or the other, I'd trust them. And this is a search where you have to basically trust your training. And your dog needs to understand these hides 100% solid, or you're missing it. You don't have enough time to work out a complicated problem. If your dog struggles with elevation, you're going to miss it. Let's look at the debriefs now.
And I heard from someone who was there who said that only one dog found all the hides in this search.
Yeah, I'm not worrying about that. What I'm worrying about is doing the best I can do. Everyone has the same disadvantages.
Yeah.
So that's why people shouldn't worry about finding all the hides. Just focus on finding more hides than everyone else. Exactly. In a way, if you know what I mean.
That's why I bring it up. Yeah. Because you may go out of that going, ugh, we might have missed something or we did miss something.
Yeah, but if you found everything more than everyone else.
You don't know how everyone else did. So thinking too much about that is not going to be helpful. And you can only do what you have time for.
Yes. Okay, so let's look at the debrief. Okay, only 4 points.
Nothing in all that. Clear, easy hide on the base of that. Okay.
Wow.
There's your triplet chair.
There's only one hide left, which is the one in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't consider any of those hides high.
Well,
these are like NW1 level, NW1 2 level hides.
2, not 1. Especially not the back of the chair. You don't see hides like that.
It's in the rule book though.
So they caught the chair in the middle of the room.
Okay, I'm gonna get her to the other hide. Okay.
It's right there.
Okay, so my guess is that a lot of people got tangled up in the busyness of the middle of the room.
Would be fascinating.
Also, I would bet that people found 1 or maybe 2 of those hides in the back and then left and didn't go back. So there was probably a mixture of overworking unproductive areas and underworking an area that had a bunch of high density to it.
Yeah.
So what do you need to train? I don't. like where she's pointing to that bar, I also don't really consider that one particularly elevated. It's not on the ceiling on one of the plaques. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't the super high heights that
No,
you
they're
can
not
get
super
at
high.
Elite or Summit, but it's still high enough for, especially for dogs that can't reach it, for that probably to be cascading all over this area.
Yeah.
And potentially taking a lot of work. I mean, I think.
No, I don't agree. I think that it's gonna, those handlers who want to hem and haw about a call because they're nervous and they want their dog to be very precise. Good luck.
Maybe. But also, I mean, I saw a trial hide recently that wasn't even this high, where it was under a table and people were getting a no if they were on this end of the table and a yes if they were in the middle. Huh. And so, you know, how many no's do you want? How many no's can you as a handler cope with? Mm-hmm. If your dog, what if your dog's jumping up all over that tablecloth?
Because every judge is different. I don't worry about that. All I worry about is my dog doing the best they can do, and then I'm going to call it. And if the judge wants to give me a no, they can give me a no.
Right, but what if your dog is in the middle of trying to do the best they can do, and you are like, "Oh my gosh, time is ticking."
It's a time search. You can only do what you can do in the time. So
would you abandon this problem if your dog is swirling?
I'd probably call an alert and get a no.
Okay, and then what? Keep working it?
No. I didn't train this. If my dog is caught up in swirling, I didn't train this well enough. I need to go back to the drawing board and find ways to train it.
So probably your dog could do this hide in some situations,
but not in 2.5 minute search where there's 3 other hides at the other end of the room. No,
but
they need to be able to do this in 5-10 seconds.
You don't know if there are other hides at the other end of the room.
I do, because I just watched the debrief. I'm saying in retrospect, you can look at what you missed and make a training plan. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, but
I don't care. In the moment, you can only do what you can do. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
The question was about strategy. So I'm asking you, if you see your dog having a hard time with this problem, swirling and swirling and swirling.
That's not strategy. No, that's handling. Do you see the difference?
But handling is strategy. So I'm not going to agree with that.
I don't agree. Okay, so if you want to know, my dog is swirling, I'm going to throw an alert out there, and then I'm going to get a no.
And then are you going to move on, or are you going to stay and try to work this out?
It doesn't matter. I've probably already timed out by this point. I'm going to do what I already said. I'm going to do a perimeter, and then I'm going to call finish before I time out.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do. And then I'm either going to miss the close hide problem because I left too quickly, in which case I need to train close hides. Or I'm going to miss, let's say this was complicated for the odor reasons, then I need to find some way to replicate this odor problem and give it to my dog enough times that hide doesn't take as long.
Yeah. So I'm not disagreeing with any of that, but I am trying to question you as if I were the handler who feels that they did prepare their dog for this, these sets of problems. Because if you've done a lot of close hide work, that triplet back there is only hard, I think, in that you had to get the chair, had to get into the chairs versus getting it from the other 2 hides. So you feel like you prepared your dog for this set of problems, and then they did not figure this out in a timely manner.
If they didn't figure it out in a timely manner, you didn't prepare them. That's just by definition. You didn't prepare. I don't care if you feel like you prepared them. That's too bad for your emotions.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you as the handler, you get out of this search, you find out what the hide problem was. You find out that, I would have thought if I had just seen the debrief, I would have thought that should be pretty doable for my dog.
Okay.
It ended up not being. Okay. So then how are you assessing what I trained before didn't prepare them for this? What do I need to do differently in my preparation to actually prepare them for these sorts of...
I wouldn't think that. I would think that I hadn't done enough of it. I would think that me as a handler, you're asking me, that I just need to do more of it, and I need to just make things more challenging. That's all I need to do, is find some way to make it more challenging. Maybe it's 5 close hides. Maybe it's all like distractors too, and maybe there's time pressure even in training, and maybe I'm aging. Maybe I'm using different thresholds of odor. I just need to find ways to make it way harder to that this feels easier. And if it didn't feel easy in the trial scenario, that means I didn't make it hard enough.
Yeah. Well, something that I had at my last summit was a whole swamp of chairs, and there were 2 chairs right next to each other that both had hides. And I went into the search expecting there to be chairs next to each other with hides, still managed to miss one of them. My problem in retrospect was that I was expecting them both to be available from the same side of the chairs, and one was available from one side of the chairs and one was available from the other side. So while I do want to prepare my dog better for that, I also want to prepare my brain to remain more flexible about where the odor is going. So to me, that's partially a strategy handling piece of.
I don't. I get what you're saying. That does not fall into strategy for me. Did you restrict your dog from finding the hide?
I'm not sure.
Because if you restricted the dog from finding the hide, then there are two answers from that. Because you're saying, oh, I need to keep in mind that they need to go to the other side of the chairs. Okay.
Or whatever it might be. Like in this case, maybe if you were too
let's
stuck
stick
on
with
the
that
perimeter.
example because I don't want to jump between examples.
Okay.
So you needed to think about the other side of the chairs. Why? Why can't the dog just do it for you? And two, maybe the dog wanted to do it because you trained them well, but you didn't let them.
Yeah, that could be.
If you didn't let them, that falls into two categories. One is you chose not to let them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you chose not to let them, that is strategy. That was a bad choice.
Right.
And if you didn't, it was just impulsive. You didn't even think about it. That's not strategy. That's just bad handling. You were denying your dog access to something without even being aware that you were denying.
Well, potentially. But also,
those are the only two options.
The
unless there's
spaces
another
are
one.
so complex that the dog they're working and they're trying, but they're drawn off to something over here instead of being drawn to the thing that was super close because the airflow is complicated.
But that's problem solving. That's training, not strategy or handling.
Well,
don't you think?
Those can fall into handling because you can decide to segment
strategy.
Your searches in particular ways.
Decisions are strategy.
Yes, and handling decisions are decisions that are strategy, which is why I'm arguing.
Well,
with you
I think
about
it would help
semantics.
if we simplified and we focus on like if you're making a choice, then we call that strategy. However, if you're doing something that's not a choice, that's handling. I know what you're saying. It's just for simplification.
Yeah. For right now, sure. We can hash that out later. But I think that when we are in something like an Elite S, Elite, or Summit, we need to be thinking about how is my body positioning? How is my tone of voice? How far I let the dog go? How is where I think about going next? All of that impact the fact that are likely to be close hides in a lot of these situations.
Okay.
And sometimes I think, at least I see it with other people and I see it in myself, when we forget about those things, we end up missing more close hides than we needed to.
I agree.
So I totally agree that we want as much of this on the dog as possible, but
that's not what I'm saying.
Well, you're saying go prepare the dog better for these hides.
Well, if the dog struggled with an odor problem, I don't care if it wasn't the odor problem that the dog struggled with, it was your bad decision making, then that's a totally separate issue.
Yes, although I also think we should teach our dogs to work through our bad decision.
Sure, that's fine, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if it's an odor problem, stop trying to handle your way out of it. You got to train out of it. If it's not an odor problem, if the dog could have solved the problem if you hadn't stopped them by some dumb decision, then it is a handling problem, not a strategy problem.
Yeah.
Forgetting something is not strategy. Nobody strategizes to forget that a hide could be over there. That's not a strategy. That is poor handling.
But yes, but that also ties
making
into
a
strategy
distinction
because we should be training our memory and our strategy in such a way that we are better at doing that stuff in real time under stress.
Only makes it more complicated. Now you're talking about strategies for training you to remember to do things. That's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about strategy. I'm talking about what decisions you make in a search.
Yes, but you have to prepare yourself to make good strategy decisions.
But preparing yourself, I don't consider strategy. I consider that training handling.
Yes, but when you're in trial, you fall into strategy.
Okay.
I'm not sure why we're arguing about this.
Yeah.
But I also think, and I'm sure that like the person who asked this question has reviewed her videos and all that stuff. But I do think we have to look for those little things that we may have done to accidentally make problem solving harder.
Yes, we should train our handling. I agree.
And also critique our own handling after the fact to see if we did do something that could have made
this
harder. Easier.
If you filmed your search, we would be happy to critique your handling.
Of course.
And strategy decisions, both of them, you know?
Yeah. And then there also might be some things you can do from a training perspective of like similar to the running drill, where you feel like you could move more quickly through some of these larger spaces. And if the dog catches anything, that they will yank you out of your moving too fast.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I would handle it. I would handle briskly.
Yeah.
And then I just know, like, because of all the training I do, that she will stop at me if she needs to. And if I don't think she can do that, it would be a bad strategy choice to do that in a trial. Then you need to go the pace the dog needs you to go.
Yes. And that sort of strategy also has to be upkept through training, because dogs can have that ability and then can lose it. Yeah. I don't know if we remotely answered your question, but it was fun to talk about.
It was. I think even 30 to 40 seconds nailing that hide on the bar is enough to get back, because now you have 2 minutes left to get those 3 close hides. That's still enough time. I'm just saying.
Especially with, like, you're a fast person and he's a fast dog.
Yeah.
If you're not wasting time other places.
Yeah.
And a big part of Elite is, like, I'm deciding that this area is unproductive and we're getting out of here. Especially with the dog who will overwork unproductive areas. And then there was something else.
There's a follow-up question here about, I couldn't even walk through that space in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Unless I'm wrong about your physical capabilities, yes, it would take you about 30 seconds to a minute to walk around that space. And I think it's worth, people don't do this enough. Time yourself walking around the space.
Yeah.
It's a casual walk, not even a brisk walk, not the walk you'll be walking with your dog working nose work, a casual walk. It takes less time than you think to get around the search area.
Although occasionally it takes more time.
Sometimes.
And it also depends on what you think you would want your path to be through that. If you had ideal circumstances.
I'm just talking about walking around the perimeter. I'm not talking about
not going
else.
Through the chairs or anything.
No, because I wouldn't do that in the trial either. So not in a space like this. It's too small. I might if I had extra time, but I'm not going to do that in 2 minute 30 second search. No,
I think
there's not enough time.
But it's something I had to come to.
It would be fun to do that and see which strategy works. I mean, obviously, this was a perimeter search. Like, it was designed for people to work with.
Except that she said to get the high chair hide, you had to get into the tables and chairs.
My dog would have gotten into the tables and chairs.
Yes, but that's not a perimeter search then.
Yeah, it is, because all I have to do is walk the perimeter and the dog will get into the tables and chairs.
Okay, so you're saying from
the table and chair that the hide was on the perimeter, essentially. It was like within a 6 foot span of the perimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, my dog would have got it. To me, that is a perimeter hide.
And also, I'm sure
as long as you didn't force your dog to work the wall, it's a perimeter hide to me.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people, when they think about perimeters, they become obsessed with the perimeter and stuck on the perimeter, which I saw a whole bunch when I was judging detective last weekend. People missing a hide they shouldn't have missed because they were just absolutely magnetized to the walls. So there's a lot of nuance in there that we're not necessarily getting into. But also, I mean, I remember the first time in Elite that I couldn't finish a search area with my dog and just being like aghast. Like, how could we possibly have not gotten through the whole search area? And we just was a really tight time and we didn't appropriate the time perfectly, apportion the time perfectly. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, this is this level, and I maybe need to shift strategy or need to be okay with we got what we got, and that was it. Mm-hmm. Okay, next question, unless we have follow-ups.
Yeah, unless there's a follow-up, let's move to the next question.
Okay, so I just did an outdoor search in the front yard, made some beginner mistakes, learned that I need to take her potty, before starting the search. She pottied, so I did not allow her to search. We left the search area and started over at our start line. Uh-huh. She found 2 out of 3 quickly, but it seemed to have trouble finding Birch. What do all you experienced folks suggest I do to strengthen her Birch finding skills? We're going to argue with your premise.
Yeah, that's what we're stop paying attention to what order you put out.
Odor.
Yeah, that's what I said. Odor.
You said order.
Yeah, I know, but it's odor. And then when you stop, okay, because I don't tell my students what odor I put out, because then they get this idea my dog struggled with this hide or that hide. No, probably had nothing to do with Birch. Probably had to do with that hide. Swap that hide out with anise. It might have been interesting for you to do that. Put her away, trade it out with anise or cloves. See, does she find it now? Easier?
Now, sometimes she will, because it just got disturbed.
You just got disturbed, exactly.
Moving it.
You burped it.
So it's hard to tell sometimes. But usually it is that it's just a hard hide and not the odor.
Yeah.
And in the very rare case that it might be the odor, which happens very, very occasionally, and since she's worked with me in person numerous times, I don't think she has at all a Birch problem. No. Because I set all the odor randomly, all the time. Then basically what people who actually do have an odor problem need to do is just set more of that odor and keep paying the dog really, really well on it, and the dog figures it out.
Yes, which is, I can almost guarantee you it's not a Birch problem.
Yeah.
And the way I have the story that I tell a lot, and
I think we talked about this in the last name.
We might have talked about it. So I had a student who was convinced her dog had an anise problem. And so I said, okay, here's
including having failed anise once or twice, right?
yeah, an ORT or something. Yeah. So I set up a birch ORT and an anise ORT and had her run them. She passed the birch. She gets to anise. Dog fails. She's like, see, I told you that my dog struggles with anise. It's like, okay, here's the thing. I lied. The first one was actually anise. The second one was birch. Okay. So I had lied to her and I just wanted to see how much was her and how much was the dog. And I think she willed herself into failing anise, or for some reason the second run was worse for whatever reason.
Which could have been what happened at the trial too.
Exactly. So people tend to latch on to certain explanations that make sense to us, but aren't necessarily the real one. For example, the age-old example of the dog is avoiding me when I come home because they pooped in the house and they feel guilty, right? So it makes sense to us. The dog feels guilty, so they look guilty and they're avoiding us. And we pretty much know now that that expression is not guilt. It's not anything like that. Is that the dog knows that you're probably going to punish them when they get home if they've pooped. They're avoiding you because they're trying to avoid the punishment, not because they feel guilty about what they've done. We need to be careful about our own interpretations taking over and saying what that is. If you really think your dog has a birch problem, then why don't you just set this whole search with only birch?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can take that off the table. If the dog still struggles with a hide, then you can't blame the birch.
Yeah,
it was
and
all
that was
birch.
going to be that was going to be my next suggestion. And then if your dog does struggle, well, then you get a bunch of opportunities to pay them for finding birch.
Yeah,
so it's a win-win.
And part of the reason I really don't believe the explanation of it being an odor is because we haven't done this in a long time. In fact, I don't remember the last time I even put out cypress. But when they first had cypress in AKC competitions, we put out cypress for our students, and the dogs found them, no problem, because we didn't tell them it was cypress. If we'd told them it was cypress, they probably would have had trouble. But we didn't tell them. After class, we said, by the way, your dogs all worked cypress today, and they did just fine. That was an odor none of the dogs had any experience with. What they did have experience with was the hide placements that we did. And so they just found it.
And that they were at nosework class and they were wearing their nosework equipment and the handler was all ready to pay them. And there were a lot of context cues that enabled them.
Yeah. In general, birch is the odor that people have the least trouble with. And I think there's a reason for that. One is because normally it's the odor people introduce first. I don't. I introduced anise first because then it would be anise, birch, clove, A, B, C. I don't know how they messed that up. It should be anise, birch, clove. Anyways. Okay, I've got that off my chest. But most people expose birch first, which means, one, the dog has the most experience with birch, and two, they have the most experience with birch on the easiest hides possible.
Yeah.
Because when you first introduce an odor, you tend to make the hides easier so the dog can have success that you build on. Mm-hmm. And then when you add a second odor, the dog's doing more advanced hides. So we're also introducing that odor with more complexity in the search. And so that can potentially make that a little bit harder. But it's not because one odor is harder than the other. It's because we're setting hides that are harder.
Yeah. And that's part of why I don't pay attention to what odors I put where in a search area. If I'm setting 4 hides, I pull 4 scent vessels and just don't check what odors they are. And that makes it a little easier not to overthink the dog. Now, if I do see some pattern, then I'm going to investigate that pattern. But my first dog did seem to have an anise problem early on in nose work. And when my trainer pointed that out to me, that she was consistently finding anise last over like 10 searches, this wasn't like one time she had a weird response. I realized that I was avoiding setting anise, which I've talked about this a bunch on NAMA, but I was avoiding setting anise because I hate the smell of anise and it gives me a headache. So once I said, okay, I need to set that equally to everything else, then the problem went away. And I know someone who had a clove problem where they failed clove a whole bunch of times. And even in practice, the dog was actively avoiding the clove. And so I just said, okay, just only set clove for like a month or 2. And when she tried for clove again, she passed. So sometimes you have to overdo things to fix it, but generally you just have to stop worrying about it. Mm-hmm. And then evaluate your hide placements. If I have a hide that my dog's struggling with, why are they struggling with it? Sometimes I can figure that out mid-search. Sometimes I need to give them a break and think about it.
Well, and sometimes you can't figure it out because odor often works in counterintuitive ways. So you might not be able to figure it out, but that doesn't matter. You don't need to figure it out. Just let the dog work it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take more time.
Give the dog a break. Make a change. There are a lot of options if the dog's not finding the hide.
Come back tomorrow and set that as a single hide search, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes it's that the other hides are pulling the dog off or drawing the dogs in areas that are
UPS.
Oh, this is a funny time for them to come.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just checking to see if we have any other questions.
I don't think
any.
I mean, none of these odors are particularly offensive. I mean, cypress is gasoline smelling. It's pretty bad. But birch, anise, and clove. So someone else is saying, I agree. I dislike anise too, and clove is too heavy. I don't disagree. But I think any of these oils taken at the concentration we're using them are very objectionable. But from a distance, birch, anise, clove. I know a lot of people don't like that licorice thing. But it's not an unpleasant smell. It's floral. It's fruity. You could get used to it.
I think I have an allergy because it triggers a headache so immediately.
Like, I don't love clove, but it's not, it's not poop smelling,
I like clove.
It's not skunk smelling.
Yeah.
But same with anise, anise, it's not that.
It's not that bad. No, none of them are terrible. None of them
all of them are bad if I stick my nose right on them.
Vetiver.
Birch is the
disgusting.
best. Birch is absolutely the best.
Vetiver and myrrh are both quite gross.
Vetiver is a special kind of.
And cypress I dislike, but I've never had a problem putting a dog on cypress.
No.
Someone else about the video that we looked at says we went to the left and missed the triangle, got one of the three, and got the one on the bar. So yeah, it sounds like it was tough for everyone.
Yes.
And I think that's part of what you're getting. At Elite S, it's the element trial of Elite.
So the question you have to ask yourself on that search: if you knew where the hides were, could you get all 4 of them in 2.5 minutes? And I think that's an obvious yes.
Absolutely.
So then you have to figure out, okay, what the heck am I doing wrong that's stopping my dog from doing that when I don't know where the hides are? And hopefully, when you know where they are, you aren't just dragging your dog from hide to hide.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think you guys are. So that means you're probably strategizing poorly, where you're like, I found a hide, let's keep moving, I only have 2.5 minutes. Well, that's not going to work very well. Just cover your search area evenly. That's all you got to do for every search. Don't change because it's a speed search or not a speed search. In fact, if you didn't tell me you had 2.5 minutes, if you told me I had 6 minutes in that room, my strategy doesn't change.
Yeah,
I'm going to do the perimeter. The only thing that changes is, okay, 2.5 minutes is over. I found all the hides. Now what? I'll go through the middle ones before I call finish, right? That's the only thing that changes.
Right.
If I have more time.
And every time I have had a speed search and overthought the hides, I've missed something.
Yeah.
And like the first time.
There's a strategy for you. Pretend you have a 4-minute time limit. Pretend you have longer time, and don't let the speed search mess with you.
Yes, that is a good one. Don't let yourself time out, but don't let the shortness of the search get to you. The first time I had a 2-minute 2-hide search, I was like, well, why would he give us 2 whole minutes for 2 hides and then tell us there were 2 hides? So I, was like, one of them's going to be really hard, and then missed like the easiest bench hide in the whole world.
Yeah.
Because I was overthinking it and overcovering and just being silly. But also, how often are you giving yourself and your dog short times in practice?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
All right.
I think that's the last question. When's the next one?
The next one will be in April, which is a very busy month.
It is. It's crazy.
Why don't we do
Easter?
That's really soon.
It is really soon. But it doesn't matter. It's not like.
No, I mean that would be fine. We could also do the 20th.
Is that why you're in Laramie?
Well, it's while I'm on my way back. I could just stop earlier.
Whichever one. The 20th?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to do the 20th.
Okay, maybe we'll do it a little later like this, like maybe even 6. You want to do it at 6?
Fine, it's up to you.
All right, we're going to do it at 6 Central on the 20th of April.
6 on the 20th. We will see you guys there. Start sending in your questions. Thank you guys for the questions you sent. They were very entertaining.
Yes, and the participation.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Yes. See you next time.
Bye.